Hi Archers! Today I'll be guiding you through Chapter 13. Because Chapter 13 is such a difficult chapter, this will be split into two videos. This guide is specifically for the bosses and the next video will be for the mobs. I'll be showing you the recommended abilities for Chapter 13, equipment recommendations, and how to beat each boss. My name is Teeds. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe and click the bell for more Archero and gaming videos. Disclaimer, this is based on my playstyle, experience, and research. What works for me may not 100% work for you. Do make adjustments where it suits your personal playstyle and what you find best. I have completed Chapter 13 3 times, applying different strategies and to figure out what is the best way to beat each boss. I do want to note that this chapter is really hard and I have not been able to beat it yet without using a revive. Unless you have legendary gear or are incredibly skilled, this chapter relies a lot on ability luck. I'll have timestamps in the comments down below so you can skip to the boss you are having trouble with, but before that, I highly recommend to watch the intro first before doing so, as there may be something that could be very game-changing for you. Here are the abilities I recommend for Chapter 13. Extra Life from the Devil. Ricochet. I recommend picking up Ricochet first over Multi-Shot and Front Arrow. Again, this is what worked best for me, but the crowd control of Ricochet was very much needed and works really strong against the bee mobs, the splitting bee boss mob spawn thing, and the tentacle mobs. Besides that, you have a higher chance of picking up Multi-Shot and Front Arrow again from the devil. Next, Multi-Shot or Front Arrow. Ricochet paired up with at least one of these abilities will be a huge help in your run. Preferably you would have all three, but that is really hard to get. Rage. If you're not running Helix, Rage is extremely strong on any hero. For defense, Invincibility is extremely helpful in this chapter because there is a lot of projectiles, especially past level 30, where the tentacle mobs start instantly throwing projectiles as they pop up. Invincibility will assist you in not dying and repositioning yourself, which is very hard to do in this chapter. These are the 6 abilities I would say that are must-haves. Well, Extra Life is not something you must have and it is really hard to get, but at least Ricochet, Multi-Shot, Front Arrow, Rage, and Invincibility. After that, I would focus on building up your power and crit damage, so attack boost and crit boost. Other abilities that buff your hero are the Spirit Blaze, Poison, Bolt, Freeze, attack boost, and crit boost. Dwarf is also a strong ability here, not only for the crit increase, but making your hero smaller, which will help you avoid projectiles easier. Dodge and agility are strong because this chapter hits hard, so the chance to dodge the whole attack can save your life. Crit Aura and Speed Aura are 2 abilities that I consider very strong. Crit Aura is stronger than Speed Aura, but the 2 abilities I find pretty helpful in this chapter. Wingman is a huge help in this chapter due to the amount of projectiles. Bloodthirst grants lifesteal as you kill enemies. I had this ability for 2 out of 3 of my successful runs for Chapter 13, and it's helped me reach the end boss by healing off the mobs between level 30 and 49. Headshot is strong here for the chance of instantly wiping out mobs, which can make a huge difference. A strategy that I implemented in this chapter is the Devil strategy. I always try to keep my health up around 9k for this chapter. So there are a lot of junk abilities in Archero, but the health boosts pop up quite often. If the other abilities are none of the above and you have a health boost, I usually pick that up to trade that health boost for an ability from the Devil. The Devil offers higher tier abilities that will help you. Note, the Devil does pop up if you take no damage from a boss level. There are 4 bosses in this chapter that I can comfortably fight without taking damage for the Devil to pop up. If you cannot do that for at least one boss, then I do not recommend using this strategy. Walk Through Walls is an ability that is only offered by the Devil. This ability allows you to walk through walls, floor blades, and floor spikes. It also increases your damage by 15%. This ability is mostly picked up in this chapter because of the tentacle mobs. Some players hide in the walls to avoid the projectiles and because the tentacle mobs cannot spawn in walls. A few other mentions. Crit Plus is a strong ability only if you can stack it. It's hard to stack, but if you feel that you can do it, I do recommend picking this up as your first ability if the other abilities are not high tier. Attack Plus after that, and then HP Plus. Freeze Arrow can help against bosses and the tentacle mobs by cancelling their attack. If you do not have a strong knockback weapon, then it can also help against the splitting bees. The Dark Shadow Arrow can help against the splitting bees and the tentacle mobs when they go under by just dealing a little bit more damage or just killing them off. Ice Swords can help against the splitting bees and the tentacle mobs when they pop up. Shield Guard can help against the Candlemen mobs that throw 4 red projectile orbs towards you and also help against the other projectiles as well. Chilling Blast can help against the Splitting Bees. A high tier ability that I recommend avoiding is Slow Projectile. While this ability can help against certain bosses, I found that in my experience it made the mob levels a lot harder. I personally die on average around levels 31 to 39, mostly because of the Tentacle mobs paired up with the Candlemen and then everything else that throws projectiles. The Candlemen attacks already are a little slow traveling, so Slow Projectile makes them even slower, thus making it harder to move around the map. If you have no issues with this, then Slow Projectile is handy, but I cannot successfully reach the end boss with this ability. Next, recommended loadout. So you should always use what you love and have fun with, but this is what I strategically recommend. For heroes, Helix, Sylvan, or Meowgic. I do recommend Meowgic more for this chapter just because there are a lot of walls and obstacles. Meowgic's cats do follow the target if you're attacking behind a wall, thus making Meowgic a safer pick. There are a lot of mobs in this chapter that you want to try and stay as far away as possible from. For weapons, I recommend either the Epic Death Scythe or the Epic Brave Bow. Epic Scythe due to the headshot and knockback, which is very much needed in this chapter, and the Epic Brave Bow has a decent mix of speed and knockback. You can still get away with using your weapon of preference, I just found these to be the easiest. The staff does produce the highest damage per second out of all weapons if you get the right abilities, but without the right abilities, the staff in my opinion is a little lacking. Because the staff relies on diagonal arrows and to be at a certain distance, I found it a little hard for this chapter due to the mobs that just spawn under you or run into you. Not only that, but the projectiles from the staff and the way it's built makes it hard to see the enemy's attacks. For gear loadout, I use the dodge build, and my reasoning is it's because the attacks from these mobs can literally 3-shot me. The dodge has the potential to avoid a whole attack multiple times. You can also use the crit build, and some players have recommended using an epic Phantom Cloak due to the effect of it freezing enemies who hit you and deals thorn damage. I have not tested this or used it, but if you want to try it then it's up to you. I think this is more for the Tentacle mobs. I don't have enough gold to level it up and test it, so I cannot directly give you my advice on this cloak. For pets, I personally use the bats because there are many walls in this chapter, then I use Freeze Bracelet and Angel Locket. Right before we get into the bosses, some quick tips. I recommend stutter stepping for most of the chapter to increase your damage and attack speed. Watch your character or in front of your character, do not directly try to follow all the projectiles coming at you. You'll most likely have to use a revive for this chapter. Now let's get into the bosses. Remember the timestamps are in the comments down below. The Snake Boss. He always fires one projectile and then hides in the ground, pops up again and fires a projectile. This projectile splits once hitting the wall. I just attack him a few times, run to the left or right, whichever is the opposite, and keep doing that. When he pops back down, projectiles will fly out from his location. If he spawns close to you, I would run up to the other side of the map to avoid him spawning close, as he generally spawns in one area. Freeze does cancel his orb attack from time to time, and Wingman is helpful against this boss. The Fire Orb boss has 3 attacks. One attack is where big red projectiles will pause and then make their way back to him. Just stand against the wall out of their area. Second attack is he will fire red projectiles from his location. A little pause at the start, and these are the easiest to avoid as long as you are far away from him and you can see where he'll fire them as well. Third attack is probably the most difficult. Red fire orbs will be placed on the map and then randomly go in one direction. Just try to stay out of their general area. All in all, he's not a really hard boss. You just pretty much have to watch your character to avoid the projectiles, watch him if you want to see where the projectiles are going, and just stay as far away as possible so you have a better chance at avoiding his projectiles. The Tentacle boss has 2 attacks, always spins around in a weird circle and throws out projectiles. Does this twice. The second attack is the projectile will spawn when he pops back down. When he pops back down, he will spawn 4 small tentacles after a very short time frame who will do the same thing but only the spin attack. This doesn't always work perfectly, but what I generally do is a 2-step movement. So when the mobs pop up, I move in one direction, avoiding the projectiles, and as soon as the mob pops back down, I move in the opposite direction as he is more likely to spawn in the direction I was first walking to. This can be a little hard, but I generally do not have a hard time against this boss, it just takes some practice. The bee splitting boss has 3 attacks, spawns bee splitting mobs that will fire projectiles around them when split, fires fireballs in your general area that puts the ground on fire, zoning out the area, dashes forward leaving a line that will deal tick damage if you touch it. This is the boss I personally find the hardest in chapter 13. Try to always keep moving because of the fire orbs, and if you can multitask, try to watch the boss animations. You can see when he is about to dash. This boss is really hard without Ricochet. You can still do it without Ricochet if you're lucky and he doesn't spawn a lot of bees, but without Ricochet, and if he spawns a lot of bees, it can be very overwhelming. The jumping spider boss has 3 attacks. First attack, he jumps on you, second attack, he fires spread out projectiles at you, and third attack, he fires a ball that splits and goes in a circle motion. When he jumps, I run to the opposite direction on the top or the bottom, and when he fires a splitting ball, if you're on the top, run to the left, if you're on the bottom, run to the right. This doesn't mean you'll 100% avoid the projectiles, but this is what I found the easiest. The end boss has 4 attacks. First attack, you can see the animation, he will clap forward, a damaging tremble, easy to avoid. Second attack, he claws 3 times, dashing towards your direction. It's pretty slow and easy to avoid. Third attack, he throws out 3 spread fast projectiles. This can be hard to avoid, I would suggest watching your character. Fourth attack, and the hardest attack, he jumps to your location where a fire will spread around him. I didn't figure this out until my 3rd attempt with him. I think the other times I was lucky, but I did die in this footage and used a revive. However, after that revive, I figured out the best way to beat him. The hardest attack in my opinion is that jumping attack. Sometimes the fire catches you and you die. I would suggest not starter stepping. Instead, attack once or twice if you have a faster weapon and move to a different location. That way, if he does jump, you can avoid his fire easily. So what I did on the 2nd attempt from the revive is I pretty much attack once, move to the location, attack once, move to a different location, and so on. His jump attack is locked on your previous location if you keep moving. The only times I would suggest starter stepping and attacking him a few times is when he does the clap or the claw dash towards you. You can also get away with attacking him in between projectile shots, but it's a little bit risky. And that is all for today's guide. Please do subscribe and click the bell for the 2nd chapter 13 guide where we focus on the mobs. I thank you very much for watching. Feel free to leave your own tips and tricks for chapter 13 in the comments down below. Any likes would be very appreciated, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Bye!